New Zealand, only 2.5 hours flying time from Australia, yet we are told completely different from its larger neighbour. But just how different? Well, we have exactly 1 month to see for ourselves. The best way to see Auckland is from the Sky Tower, a 328-metre high building in the heart of the city. It is the tallest building in New Zealand and even taller than the Eiffel Tower. The 360-degree views of it show a neat modern city that sprawls across volcanic hills. The fertility of the surrounding countryside has given the area a reputation for fine wines. It is the nation's fastest growing city and its commercial hub. Like Sydney, it is considered one of the world's great harbour cities, and during our visit was engaged in America's Cup trials. It is here that we discover what must be the national obsession. New Zealanders love defying gravity. It was no accident that a New Zealander was the first person to climb Mount Everest, or that bungee jumping began in New Zealand after borrowing the idea from the Pentecost Islanders. We take the more conventional means of descent as it is time to seek out the next major attraction. Not far from the centre of the city is Kelly Tarleton's Antarctic Encounter and Underwater World. Here it is possible to view a huge array of some of New Zealand's diverse marine life, travel through an Antarctic landscape complete with penguins, and walk through a full-size replica of Captain Scott's hut as used in his 1911 expedition. Penguins live exclusively in the southern hemisphere and are loved by all for their peculiarities and formal dress. They live and breed under conditions that would be life-threatening to us humans. Here in this Antarctic recreation where the temperature is -7 degrees Celsius, visitors travel in heated snowcats to view the penguins. larger ones are the king penguins and the smaller black and white ones are gentoo. In the Underwater World section, visitors are carried along on moving pathways that enable them to get a diver's perspective on the inhabitants. Another area of the underground complex has a display of creatures that are found in New Zealand's colder waters. With limited time to spend in each place, we hit the road and travel north to the Bay of Islands. At once the huge difference between the two countries becomes apparent. Everything here is lush and green. When we left Oz, the countryside was a dust bowl in various shades of brown, with farmers and graziers struggling to survive. No one seems to be battling for survival here. At Paia, we are welcomed by a tui bird who appears to be wearing a little white bow tie. Others drop by from the nearby national park as we prepare to board our boat for a cruise called the Milk Run, which travels around the various islands in the bay, dropping off supplies to those who live there, and if seas permit, to sail through the famous Hole in the Rock at Cape Brett.
do is give it away today. That smell is just a bit too consistent, and I feel possibly just a bit too unsafe to take this large vessel in the hole in the rock today. What we'll do is slowly pull away. We're going to explore Cape Red some more, and then we will maybe go and have some complimentary afternoon tea somewhere, find a lovely quiet bay where we can enjoy some afternoon tea.
We leave the Bay of Islands and turn south again to travel towards the Bay of Plenty and Rotorua. On the way, this spectacular view of Bream Bay offers itself from a lookout above the pine forest.
We're on the motorway now.
is of interest to those of you who like facts and figures to know that the average thickness of the Earth's crust is 35 kilometres, but here at Rotorua it is only on average 16 kilometres thick, which is the reason for its strange phenomenon.
Kia ora, good morning everybody. Welcome to Waitapu Thermal Wonderland. My name's Craig and it's my pleasure to stoke the Lady Knox Geyser up for you. So without any further ado, well, I bet you've all got a question you're all dying to ask me. What have I just done here? Well, I've placed 1.5 kilograms of pure soap into the mouth of the geyser here. And what that soap is going to do is induce an eruption for you with a bit of luck. Now, this was discovered quite by accident around about 100 years ago, folks. Before I go any further, 100 years ago, the Lady Knox Geyser looked nothing like this. She looked more like the cinderlip you see behind me here with the small manuka tree growing from it. Now, the story goes there was an open prison here, the Waitapu Open Prison, the first prison camp in New Zealand. And these prisoners, their labours were used to clear the ground here for the planting of this forest behind us, the largest man-made forest in the world, the Kaingaroa Forest. Now, you can imagine after a hard day of these prisoners clearing scrub, they were rather dirty, and they didn't have the pleasures of a nice hot shower as we do in this day and age. But they did know there's a hydrothermal spring here. So one day a group of prisoners wandered down here, armed with their carbolic soap and their scrubbing brushes, and they started washing their clothes in the mouth of the geyser. The next thing they know, their clothes went skyward and they went running through the bushes. They got a heck of a fright. Over time, they discovered what we've discovered. By putting soap into the mouth of the geyser here, they will induce an eruption. So they thought they could have a little bit of fun with the geyser here and get some more height out of her. So around the lip here, they've placed some rocks. And over the last 80 years that these rocks have been here, they've been coated in a mineral called silica. Every time the geyser erupts, water flows over these rocks and the silica, the mineral silica deposits in its hardened state. We call it sinter. Another question that is commonly asked is, if I was not to put soap into the geyser here, would she still play on her own accord? Well, folks, the answer to that is yes. This is a completely natural geyser. If we were to let it go by its own devices, she would play somewhere around about every 48 hours. So you can imagine it would be extremely difficult for us to pinpoint exactly when she's going to play. So for everyone's benefit, we give Mother Nature that little bit of a helping hand, and she plays once a day at 10:15 with a little bit of help.
come here in the morning, put their meal in for dinner, go to work, come home, put their meal up all nice and done, ready and cooked. The steam will never ever burn your food. In fact, if you're cooking stews and casseroles, your meat ends up being very nice and soft and tender. Anyway, let's take a quick peek in the boxes here, folks. You see that we are cooking in stainless steel dishes, tin foils and all that sort of thing. A lot of people wrap their food up in Glad wrap to keep their juices in and all that sort of thing, because plastic and that sort of thing will never ever melt in the steam. Corn, cabbage, peas, beans, carrots, anything like that, potatoes, kumaras, pumpkins. Folks, we can cook shellfish like shrimps, crabs, crayfish, yabbies, cockles, mussels, clams, all that sort of stuff, excellent cooked in our water here. And as I said, folks, we've been using the pool for over 600 years now, and because of the pool in this area, that's why the whole village is set in this area too. Folks, are spiritual guardians of your village. Now, when you had a village in the old days, your village was on a hill all the time, and your hill was surrounded in a couple of palisades, and palisades are a huge sharpened fence. These characters would sit on top of those palisades, folks, surrounding your whole village, and they were the spiritual guardians of your village, folks. These characters called Teko Teko. Folks, the most well known of our figurines is probably Tiki right here. When Tiki is worn around the neck, folks, it is a good luck charm. The true meaning of Tiki, folks, is that he is the first person ever created. You may be able to relate him to Adam or something like that, but to us he was the first person ever created. That's Tiki. And over here, the butt end or the row, folks, had one special area to aim for, and that was just above the bridge of the nose. But these days, folks, this weapon is a ceremonial weapon only. They never ever use these for fighting. We've got rolling pins these days.
Here at the Maori village we encountered the first of many video camera bans. The concert was for the tourists, but not their cameras. Somehow my video camera was accidentally turned on. again. So now we do the tour and buy some postcards. Why a group of Japanese people in traditional clothing should emerge from the caves when we turn the cameras on will remain one of life's little mysteries. Perhaps the cave system goes deeper than we think. Beautiful scenes appear at every bend or rise in the road, as if all nature conspires to delay the anxious traveller more and more. Today, however, as we head southeast to Taupo by the Tongariro National Park, the weather closes in, putting a veil of cloud over the trio of volcanoes, Ruapehu, Ngauruhoe and Tongariro. We can only imagine what lies hidden away beneath the cloud. On a lookout above the town of Tarangi, we catch a glimpse of New Zealand's largest lake, Lake Taupo. Travelling along the eastern edge of the lake, we follow the road into Taupo as night falls. The next day the cloud has cleared somewhat and has given us a bright sunny day and a clearer view of the mountains. Although a strong southerly has made Lake Taupo rather choppy. We also discover a gypsy fair with a strange assortment of vehicles has set itself up for the weekend. Taupo is regarded as the trout fishing capital of the world. It is also here where New Zealand's largest river, the Waikato, begins its run to the sea. Appearances can be deceptive, however, as this is no placid river. Just outside Taupo it becomes the Haka Falls. By venturing further downstream, we discover where the real action is. With that, we leave the beautiful Lake Taupo area and turn ourselves south in the direction of Wellington, as we have the booking of the Inter-Island Ferry, which will carry us and our trusty motorhome across to the South Island. As we travel on the other side of Tongariro National Park, the trio of volcanoes are still lurking behind their clouds. The arid nature of the land is testament to the volcanic fury of the past. As quickly as it changed to desert-like conditions, the land changes back again, and we are once more with the now familiar green fields. It is also spring, with lots of little hungry mouths to feed. Spring also brings forth these hungry little ducklings who roam the caravan park seeking handouts. One never knows what is going to appear next when travelling in New Zealand. Dominating the landscape here is either a pile of flour, a giant bomb Alaska, a mountain covered completely in fresh white snow, or a painted backdrop for Lord of the Rings. Limited time, the best way to see Wellington is from the lookout on Mount Victoria. In the early morning light, our inter-islander ferry approaches. The gloomy, rainy sky is hardly the welcome we hoped for. It seems that all the stories we have heard about the atrocious weather on the South Island are true. Is it a case of goodbye sunshine, hello rain? Perhaps we should have remained on the North Island. Our first plan was to travel down the west coast and cross to the east via the Haast Pass, travelling then up to Christchurch for our flight home. However, with reports of ice and snow on the pass and with limited time available, we decided to keep to the east coast. Weather-wise, this proves to be a good decision as slowly the skies begin to brighten for us. Our first stop on the South Island is the picturesque coastal town of Keokora. A popular place in the summer months, it is known for its whale watching and excursions to swim with the dolphins. With snow on the mountain tops, we weren't enticed to don our speedos and jump into the sea, dolphins or no dolphins. We were, however, entranced with the beauty of the place. Leaving the Harani River and our funny little banded dotterel friend, we travel across the Canterbury Plains to the South Island's largest city, Christchurch. After weeks of travelling on windy mountain roads, it is somewhat of a relief to have some nice flat straight road for a change.
We just had lunch. It's beside the Waitaki River with all the mountains in the background. Snow-capped mountains. Look beautiful. Fast-flowing river. A beautiful aqua blue.
We continue down the east coast until we reach the township of Oamaru, which has something very special. The yellow-eyed penguin is one of the world's rarest penguins. They breed only on the southern coast of New Zealand, and the species is very much endangered. Unlike other penguins, they shun the company of others, preferring a solitary existence, which makes them highly vulnerable to attacks, especially by dogs, while their chicks fall prey to stoats, ferrets and feral cats. While other penguins come ashore to feed their chicks after dark, the yellow-eyed penguins come ashore in the late afternoon, making themselves easy targets. And like all flightless birds, they are completely at the mercy of their predators. Here at Oamaru, the people have come to their aid and have given them their own protected area. Because of this, some have given humans their trust and hopefully will allow us to get in close with our cameras.
It's now run by Department of Conservation. Whereas 11 years ago, the council used to own it and didn't look after it. The Department of Conservation do look after it, and they put the fence in to stop the cattle and the sheep living here. In 1 year we had 9 pairs, but usually it's just 5 pairs or 7 pairs or 6 pairs. This year we've got 8. Days ago, this lady and her new partner, her first partner, moved into this old nest site. They brought in a lot of cabbage tree leaves quite quickly and built a nest. It's a wonderful nest for a penguin, I suppose, because it's out of the sun. The sun can never get at it. But it is a bit of a worry. We do get a lot of rain. She was born here 3 years ago. Now, as you can see, she's not quite as calm as old 9-year-old lady. Not quite. But please believe me, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, she'll do the same old go to sleep business.
They're boring me.
It's your voice, isn't it?
Only 4,000 yellow-eyed penguins left in the world, and only on our bit of coastline. They're the rarest penguin in the world and one of the world's rarest birds. When you get ornithologists here and you tell them there's only 4,000, they just about flip, because they say that is, you can't get much lower.
With news that the Dunedin Albatross Sanctuary is closed to tourists for the nesting season, we decide to head across country for Milford Sound. It used to be said that Australia rode on the sheep's back. This is no longer true for Australia, but it certainly seems true for New Zealand. There's sheep in all directions, and as it is the lambing season, lots of little lambs. As we climb into the mountains, the red tussock grass makes its appearance again. Situated on the edge of the World Heritage listed Fiordland National Park is the picturesque little town of Tianyu. The town is best known as the gateway to Milford Sound, but it is also the springboard for the lesser known Doubtful Sound. The name Tianyu in the Maori language means the cave of rushing water. The cave, or caves as they really are, also feature a glowworm grotto and are on the western side of the lake. Lake Tianyu was carved out by a glacier in ages past, is 470 metres deep and is New Zealand's second largest lake. The town is also host to a pair of the world's rarest birds, the takahi. These two birds are representatives of a species that was thought to be extinct, but with the help of the remaining few that were found are now increasing in number. Our 119-kilometre journey to Milford Sound begins with the news that the road is closed due to the risk of avalanches. This is not a good start. Our driver informs us that if we take our time getting to the gates, that by having more photo stops than usual, the area bombing should have reduced the risk and the road should be open by the time we get there. The news of the extra photo stops suits us just fine. The area bombing is a bit of a worry though. We decide to go for it. At first the road travels through undulating farmlands to enter the Eglington River Valley, which then carries us through to the Fiordland National Park. Near the entrance to the park at the base of the Earl Mountains with their beech tree forests are the curious Mirror Lakes. It is at the lookout above the Holyford River that we encounter the Kea parrots, the world's only species of alpine parrot. These cleverly camouflaged birds appear at places where tourists stop, looking for handouts and any mischief they can get up to, like removing the rubber strips around car doors and windscreens.
Now I have only good news. The road's open. The avalanche risk has dropped. The computer models tell them that the temperature is cold enough to hang in there for the day and they don't need to bomb it. So they've opened the road.
At 100 kilometres from Tianyu, we enter the 1,207 metre long Homer Tunnel, which takes us out into the Cladell Valley for our descent into Milford. With waterfalls tumbling down the mountains, we are reminded of the fact that Milford is one of the wettest places in New Zealand, with an average annual rainfall of 5.5 metres. It also has some of the highest mountain peaks, with many over a mile high. Before reaching Milford, we make one last stop at what is known as the Devil's Cauldron. Join us now as we enter Milford and board our ship for a cruise down the Sound and back. leave magnificent Milford and now head north towards our next goal, Queenstown. The landscape seems to be ever changing as we journey through it. Even the sheep for a while are replaced by herds of deer. On the southern approach to Queenstown, we are greeted by the beautiful blue waters of Lake Wakatipu. Across these sparkling waters, we catch our first glimpse of Queenstown. But kiwi is a nocturnal bird and difficult to see in the wild. Land clearing and introduced predators have reduced their numbers so much that the species is now regarded as threatened. Ahead of us now is our last lap as we point the motorhome towards our final destination, Christchurch, and our flight back to Oz. We now enter the area known for its high mountains and blue lakes. Water sports are the order of the day and many international competitions are held here. It is also here that we had hoped to be able to see New Zealand's highest mountain, Mount Cook. However, with heavy cloud about, it was not to be. But with the aid of computer magic, perhaps this could have been the scene we gazed upon. Further along the road we come to Lake Takapo, with the Church of the Good Shepherd on its shore. After 4 weeks of driving on New Zealand's roads, the major difference between the two countries becomes apparent. There is no roadkill, no furry bodies squashed on the roads. This is not because New Zealanders are better drivers, it is because they have no indigenous animals. While Australia evolved to be teeming with animal life, this evolutionary phase seems to have missed New Zealand out completely. All they have is one lizard that they call the tutara. One blessing, however, is that they have no snakes. They do, however, have our brush-tailed possums, which were introduced and are now eating their way through 7 million tonnes of vegetation annually. They would like to give them all back to us. On arrival back in Christchurch, we are welcomed with a hailstorm. Thankfully, the hail was of modest size and no damage was done. Well, that's about the end of our travels here, except for one last detail. We didn't get to the west coast. That is easily rectified, however, as we have a booking on the Transalpine to take us to Greymouth on the west coast and back again for our final day. So hold on to your hats, folks, as we climb aboard. So, we caught the afternoon train back to Christchurch, returned our motorhome to the Maori people, and flew out the next day. On the flight back to Oz, we had plenty of time to think about the amazing land we were now leaving behind, and how fortunate we were to have such a unique and beautiful country as our neighbour. Sure, they talk funny and call a biscuit a busket, but we can forgive them that if they can forgive us for our possums.